Hello, everyone. This is Ray Savage with Cambium Networks. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar on CN Pilot Wi-Fi solutions. We have two great speakers today. First is Chetan Habale, our Global Director of Product Management for all things CN Pilot Wi-Fi. And joining us also is Puneet Bhatta, who is the Director of Engineering of all of our Wi-Fi product solutions. The webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch the replay on the community later today. But if you do have any questions or comments during the course of the presentation, please feel free to use the question and answer dialog box on the right-hand side of your screen. Pardon me, on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll be able to present your questions to the speakers during the course of the presentation. Well, without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Chetan. Chetan, we're ready.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ray. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your worldwide time zone. And thanks for making time today to attend our webinar. What we wanted to do today was give you all a quick tour of our CN Pilot Wi-Fi. And following that, Puneet will do a deep dive on some of the new features that we've debuted on CN Pilot Wi-Fi. So without further ado, let's get started. So one of the key things that we are setting ourselves apart on CN Pilot Wi-Fi is really focusing on the complete value proposition, not so much on the individual AP speeds and feeds, but really what do we bring as a total package to our customers, whether they be small VARs, system integrators, or very large operators. Well, the first thing we focused on really was that while a lot of Wi-Fi access points sort of carry the same label and tag in terms of speeds and feeds, really it's about total end-to-end operations. How do you make operations fast? How do you make it easy to deploy? And how do you not incur more cost as you scale your Wi-Fi network? So a lot of our features are focused on fast operations. Along with that, one of the things that anybody who's been in Wi-Fi knows is that no two Wi-Fi networks are the same. You've got a very adaptive architecture in CN Pilot that can manage different kinds of network architecture, and we'll go through that through this presentation with Puneet sharing more details on that. So the architecture is very adaptive to the different deployment requirements. And then how do you do both of these things with high quality and without necessarily increasing the sticker price? And that's really the foundation on which we've built our Wi-Fi product line. Here is a snapshot of our portfolio today. We have 802.11 AC, Wave 2 products on the indoor side. We've got 802.11 AC, Wave 1 on the outdoor side. Our indoor products are the E400, which is a Wave 1. Followed by this year, we launched the E410 and the E600, which are Wave 2 products. And shortly, in late October, we'll be coming out with a wall plate AP. On the outdoor side, we have a very unique product line which is growing in popularity. These are integrated antenna access points, the E500. The E501 is a 120-degree sector antenna, which is very useful when you deploy outdoor Wi-Fi, for example, when you locate them by the side of a wall, where you don't need necessarily to have omni coverage, and you get all of the benefits of high antenna gain. And then we followed that with E502S, which we just launched this last week with a notice to our channel partners. The E502S is a 30-degree sector antenna, very useful for extremely high density deployments, or even indoor deployments like in warehouses or other places where you need a narrow beam to cover an aisle over a longer distance. Now, all of our Wi-Fi products are controller managed and come with CN Maestro acting as our cloud controller, or CN Maestro available as a free software for you to download on any general purpose VMware machine. In addition to that, we also offer Autopilot, which is an ability to turn an access point into a Wi-Fi controller. On the indoor APs, the E410 gives you a 2x2 capability. So a really good entry-level Wave 2 access point. The E600 gives you much higher throughput capability, ability to serve large number of clients with a 4x4 antenna array. So that's 4 transmit and 4 receives. It also comes with 3 radios, 2 on the 5 gigahertz, in addition to a Bluetooth low energy radio, as well as 2 ports on the back, 2 GigE ports on the back, and a 12 volt DC. So it kind of gives, across the E400, the E410, and the E600, we've got different entry level and mature high throughput access point capability. And these are just starting to get deployed around the world. On the outdoor APs, like we just went through, we've got the E500, the E501S 120 degree, and the E502S 30 degree antennas. Now, one of the unique distinguishing things about our access points is the resiliency that we've built in terms of the circuitry to avoid power surges, for example, from nearby lightning strikes. We've got special filters to handle high noise interference in 2.4 gigahertz. All of these kind of capabilities that used to previously be available in really high priced access points are now available for literally a fraction of the price. Now, one of the other things that a lot of customers have commented on is the fact that we've integrated these antennas into the product itself. So you don't have those long pokey sticks hanging out of the outdoor antennas. Makes for very flush deployments where you can kind of put them against the wall, not be so obviously visible and seen. So overall, all of these access points have taken both deployment aesthetics and practical performance into consideration. Now, underlying all of these access points is cnMaestro. cnMaestro gives you all of the fundamental capabilities that you expect from a good controller. Things like inventory management, onboarding the access points, configuration, being able to group access points and WLANs together, and also service capabilities. For example, being able to host hotspot pages or splash pages. And then very soon, by the end of this year, we'll be following up with more features on cnMaestro, including APIs and role-based access control. And we'll go through those in more detail on a future webinar. Now, one of the key things we brought up was also adaptive architecture, knowing that no two architectures are the same. While I won't go through the detail here, this is a quick tour of the fundamental philosophy. So with the cloud, you have the freedom option, which makes it very easy to deploy the access points. But where you need full control, we have the ability to tunnel these access points. And Puneet will go through the detail of this configuration. So it gives you full control and very useful when you want to do a brownfield deployment, where you've got an existing access point network in place based on an old architecture, and you want to just replace the access points, but leave the rest of your core network unchanged. And then with Autopilot, we have the ability to take an access point and turn that into the controller. So that's the equivalent of Aruba Instant or Ruckus Unleashed, for example. So really, we've got full choice between freedom, full control, and autonomous deployments. Now, one other thing we talked about was affordability. And the best way to illustrate our affordability is really the fact that we feature fully customizable portals with 3-dimensional control. You can control the rate, you can control the time, and you can control the quota limits of your guest access network. And we also support social login and the ability to do credit card handling through PayPal, for example, and the ability to do voucher generation as well. So with this, you get all of the benefits of a built-in splash page hosting or a portal hosting capability. But we know that mature networks require different capabilities. So we also build on the built-in capability with the power of interoperability. So we interop with a lot of the known brand name backend portal hosting services, like, for example, Purple or Cloud4V or Encapto, for example. And so this way with cnMaestro, you get convenience of built-in and the power to use a third-party system. So the system is open and easily integrated with existing portals or other third-party portals. So with that, we kind of, we've been busy the last 18 months since we launched the product. We've got deployments in universities, high-density, large deployments across Asia, Europe, and the US. We've got deployments in hospitality, in holiday, like for example, our Holiday Inn in Bali, or other high-end resorts. We're also seeing quite a bit of headway in high-density Wi-Fi deployments for events, both indoor and outdoor. And our newest vertical that we've been very active is in retail, where we're starting to see quite a bit of traction in our retail environment as well. And then one of our biggest success has really been in the demanding area of public Wi-Fi, where we are seeing huge deployments in Latin America and in Asia. In Latin America, we're one of 3 vendors selected in Colombia for public Wi-Fi deployment. And that access point network is going to grow to over 500 access points very shortly. And then in India and in Indonesia and Africa, we're partnered with internet.org to bring public Wi-Fi to hard-to-reach places, really tough conditions where people needed a world-class Wi-Fi network that was yet very affordable and with high quality. And that network is going to grow to over 2,000 access points this year. Along the way, we've also been picked up by another very large operator in Asia, where our access points deployments are slated to grow to over 5,000 access points by the end of this year. So all in all, you can see that we're hitting some of these very popular and different verticals. And this is just a sample of the different networks that we operate in, and speaks to both the affordability and the adaptability of the Wi-Fi network. Now, one of the key things with Cambium is that cnPilot is really part of a bigger picture that we call the wireless fabric. And Cambium is one of the few companies that can bring you this capability of a complete end-to-end wireless deployment that we call from 2 meters to 245 kilometers. With our point-to-point solutions, where we've demonstrated the ability to go to over 245 kilometers, carrying HD voice and HD video, to our point-to-multipoint solutions or last-mile access solutions like ePMP and PMP450, and then being able to terminate that at the edge with Wi-Fi into the homes, into public hotspots, enterprises, and industrial settings. So with this, we're now able to bring a complete wireless deployment, and obviously our Wi-Fi works with fiber as well, and then tying all of them together with one single pane of glass management through cnMaestro. Along the way, not only have we seen success with large operators with demanding requirements, but also we've been recognized recently for our ability to serve the small business. We picked up the best small and medium business Wi-Fi award recently at the SMB Tech Fest in Anaheim, California. And really it was centered around our 3 pillars: our ability to scale, our ability to be flexible in our architecture, and our ability to be very affordable. So with Cambium, you really have a world-class company backing you up on your deployments. We have over 3,000 channel partners today. We've shipped over 7 million radios since the time we've been both with Motorola and as Cambium, and we're deployed in over 150 countries. So that was a quick tour of cnPilot Wi-Fi, sort of showing also the context of how that Cambium brings that in the context of its larger Wi-Fi and wireless products.
Well, so with thanks, that, I'd like to hand off
to Puneet.
We do have a few questions that came in online while you were talking, so let's get to those first, and then we'll transfer over to Puneet. The first one is, in passing, you mentioned an LTE filter. Could you just briefly describe that and let people know what it does and where they can find out more?
Sure. We've got a knowledge base article for a lot of these things. We've got knowledge base articles in our community forum. So while I'll keep my description brief, you can either ping us again on our forum or browse our knowledge base articles as well. So the LTE filter, one of the things with 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi is right adjacent to that. 3GPP have allocated 2 bands for LTE to operate. Now, as many of you know, LTE is a licensed band operation. The frequency, the transmission power is much higher. And just like when you pump a lot of water into a narrow channel, you'll see some of that high transmission power interfering with 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi operation. Now, as far as we know, these kind of filters are usually seen in access points that cost anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. And this is the first time that we've been able, someone at this price point has brought in these kind of filters. Now, why do you need it? You don't necessarily need it just for outdoor Wi-Fi. For example, if you're putting it in a hotel, one of the things with LTE is LTE small cells are starting to show up everywhere on lampposts, by the side of walls. So wherever you deploy outdoor Wi-Fi, there is a very high likelihood that there's going to be an LTE small cell in your neighborhood. So with these kind of measures, we're taking steps to make Wi-Fi operations more resilient to future, either current or future LTE interference.
Great, thank you. We did also have a question about outdoor access points. Can you very quickly describe how the outdoor access point integrates to a Cambium point-to-multipoint subscriber module?
Sure. Now, another unique feature that I really didn't touch upon in the interest of time there was with Cambium, you have the choice of either putting traditional fiber, pulling fiber and then putting a GPON and then pulling an Ethernet wire into the access point for backhaul, or you can put a point-to-point or point-to-multipoint subscriber radio to backhaul the Wi-Fi traffic. When you do the wireless option, you get much more flexibility in where you can position the access point. And we've got 2 features that add unique value. One is when you put a subscriber module, you can power out the subscriber module from the E500. So you don't need to run a second power line up or a second Ethernet line up to take the traffic. And then you've got cnMaestro tying the management of the E500 or the E501 or the 502 and the subscriber module or the wireless backhaul CPE all on one screen. So you can do integrated troubleshooting. You can see on one screen how the 2 of them work together. And then in the future, we'll also be able to do channel management across both the wireless backhaul and the Wi-Fi access point. So that's where we're adding value when you combine a point-to-point dedicated purpose-built backhaul with our Wi-Fi access points.
Okay, great. We have a number of other questions. I know we've got Puneet lined up, so we'll get to him. Franco was asking the question about our 245-kilometer link, and I think I can answer this. His question is, was that 245-kilometer link, how many hops is that? The answer is it's 1 hop, and it was done from mountaintop to mountaintop, from Pikes Peak in Colorado to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And while it was mountaintop to mountaintop, it also went straight over the noise, a lot of RF noise in the city of Denver, Colorado. We do have a video on that. There's information on the community and on the website on that. And if you have any more questions, just let us know. We do have other questions in the queue, but I wanted to get to Puneet Bhatta, who is our Director of Engineering. Puneet, we'll let you speak, and then we'll have all the questions. We'll get through them all. Puneet?
Thank you, Ray. So let's do a deep dive into a couple of areas of the CN Pilot portfolio that Chetan touched upon. We'll start with our newest access point for outdoors, the CN Pilot E502S. The E502 is really designed for very high density outdoor Wi-Fi. So this could be dense deployments in stadiums, in event halls, in convention centers, where you might have a couple of hundred clients within one area of coverage of an access point. The E502S does this handling of clients both from software and a hardware perspective. It has a 30-degree antenna. So the 30-degree antenna ensures that the focused area of coverage is right in front of the AP, and also that it is not affected by interference behind the access point. So the 502S has a very high front to back ratio, where it will filter away a lot of noise that it hears from the back and ensure that it's able to provide service in front of the access point. This is also a very ruggedized outdoor AP. So for example, in terms of temperature, it can handle anything from minus 30 degrees Celsius to plus 60. It has a built-in heater to be able to provide a cold start when temperatures are really low. And the enclosure itself is IP67 rated. So it can handle wind, water, dust much better than many of the other APs out there. One other feature on the E502 is just like the E500 and the E501, it includes a hardware LTE coexistence filter. This is something that Chetan had just touched upon. We see a lot of cases where our outdoor APs are installed co-located with LTE access points, and being able to filter away that the LTE signal, it helps us provide a good user experience and a good signal in the 2.4 gigahertz band. One other differentiator on the E502 is just like the E500 and the E501, we have two Ethernet ports, and the auxiliary Ethernet port can also provide PoE out. So the E502S can now provide power to either another Cambium device, a Cambium subscriber module, if you want to have wireless backhaul. It can also provide power over 802.3 AF. So you can, for example, connect a surveillance camera. So this makes all the cabling and the install on the tower or the pole very simple. You now have one cable going up, which provides PoE to the E502, and then the E502 can provide power to another device on the pole. So instead of having multiple cables going up or having to install a switch for the second device, you can now handle all of that with just the AP itself. So the E502, as you can, this is just a quick snapshot of our enterprise portfolio. The indoor APs are on the left, the first three, as Chetan had mentioned, 400, 410, and the E600. And the outdoor APs are on the right. So the E500, 501, and 502, they run a similar software feature set. So you get all the capabilities of our software, whether it is RF management from features such as band steering, which would move clients towards the 5 gigahertz radio, or automatic RF management, where we assign channels, we handle interference and move away from the operating channel if there is too much interference on this channel. All of those features are available on the 500, 501, and 502. All of these can also be managed together from cnMaestro. So you have a single pane of glass to manage your complete network. And you can also interoperate among these access points for features such as mesh. So let's say there is a need to form a mesh network between an E500 as the root of the mesh and the E502 as the client node on the mesh, you can do that. One other thing about mesh on the enterprise access points is when you turn a radio into a mesh node, you don't lose that whole band. The radio can also service clients. So when the mesh link is up, in addition to being able to provide mesh service, you can also have clients associate to that or to other SSIDs and provide service. Now we'll move on to another aspect of the CN Pilot solution, which is a Wi-Fi monetization solution that we have built into cnMaestro. So cnMaestro is our network manager and wireless controller. And in addition to providing configuration, statistics, and event management on all the access points, cnMaestro also has a built-in captive portal. So you can have customized web pages so that when people log on to the SSID, they get a splash page and then they can log in. And in addition to providing a basic free service there, we also have options for vouchers as well as a payment gateway that is built in. So we had already launched this with PayPal support. So you could pay for your Wi-Fi access with PayPal. You can also have customers use their credit cards and PayPal acts as a gateway. So we have been enhancing this and adding many more payment options. So we've added a couple more for online payment, which are this service called IP Pay by Convergence, and then Quick Pay, which is another payment gateway that can help access credit cards. So as we have built upon this payment gateway, we have added more options which are optimized for either certain geographic regions or certain methods of payment. So one example for this that we have seen is in Africa. There are a lot of cases where instead of paying with credit card, people have moved on to paying with their cell phone. So if you want to pay for a service or if you want to even pay for some goods, you can do that using your phone by using mobile payment methods. And we have just introduced an option called Orange Money, where we can interoperate with the Orange based payment network. And that way people can come onto the hotspot and can provide service, and you can provide service and the customers can buy service and pay for that service using their phone. So multiple payment options which can help you customize your hotspot and also monetize it and make it easier to provide a ROI and a break even on the Wi-Fi install. Again, as Chetan had mentioned, in addition to just payment, you can tier up the services. So for example, you can have a gold plan and a silver plan, and you can charge different amounts for those two plans. The plans can be differentiated either in session time. So for example, you can say one of them gives 1 hour of service, the other one might allow a day of service. You can also rate limit traffic. So let's say you want to provide options to have basic email and browsing, but not be able to really stream video. So you can do that. And you can also have quota limits. Since the administrator is responsible for the backhaul and you don't want one user to start a large download on that network. So you can also limit it to a few hundred MB or a few gigabytes based on the install. So you can create a plan. You can customize the plan in terms of time, rate limit, and bandwidth, and then you can monetize this whole service. Monetization is also an option. We have some customers who also do a freemium kind of a model where the first 1 hour might be free, and then after that you can start charging for service. So we have all of these options built into cnMaestro, so that in addition to being just a network manager, it's also a full-fledged captive portal. And you can have all this solution rolled out using just cnPilot and cnMaestro without the need for installing and managing a separate captive portal server. And lastly, I'll touch upon the flexible deployment architecture. With cnPilot, you're not tied into how the network should look and how the APs and the controller fit into the network. We have 3 management options. The first one is cloud, where Cambium hosts CN Manager at cloud.cambiumnetworks.com. And all that you do is plug in and power up the access point. The access point would connect to cloud.cambium, and you can start managing and configuring that access point. All the traffic can either be sent out from the APs directly, or it can be tunneled to a third-party server. So let's say if you have a L2TP or a L2GRE server, we can have all our traffic from the AP sent out to that server directly. The second option is to have a local controller. So we have seen cases where people would like to have the management server running inside their own data center or NOC. And for that, cnMaestro is available as a VM software install. So you can take the cnMaestro VM, install it on a server, and then when you connect the access points, you would connect to this local version of cnMaestro, and you can have all the management options. All the other services that are there in cnMaestro Cloud will now show up on the on-premises or the local controller version of cnMaestro. In this local controller option, you also have the ability to have all your traffic tunneled to this. So if you wish to have a centralized tunneling mechanism, you can have all the APs tunnel traffic to cnMaestro, and from cnMaestro it will be broken out into the rest of the network. And then lastly, we have an autonomous mode where if you do not wish to use cnMaestro, if you have a very small network, and if your WAN connectivity is not very strong, or if you do not wish to install another server for running on premises, you can turn one of the access points into a controller. So Autopilot is built for a network of up to 32 APs, and one access point can then control all the other APs and provide management services to all of them. So you would log on to just one AP, all your statistics, all your configuration, all the events will be available on that single access point. It does the coordination among all the other APs on the network. So there are two advantages of having a flexible network like this. One is when you introduce CN Pilot into a network, we don't have to make too many changes on the wired side. Depending on how the network is set up or installed, we can choose any of these management options and have the Wi-Fi up and running. The second advantage is if you are moving from say 11N to 11AC network or from 11AC wave 1 to wave 2, you might have an existing Wi-Fi network there. And instead of having to, and existing Wi-Fi networks could be any of these architectures based on when they were installed. So for example, if it was a Meraki install, it would typically be cloud. If it was an Aruba or a Ruckus install, typically we see it would be controller and AP based. So if you're moving from one of those existing architectures onto CN Pilot, you have a choice of either moving to cloud or staying on that architecture and just replacing the end devices. So you don't have to touch your wired network in the middle of the network. We can just do a like for like replacement of AP and controller and get your Wi-Fi up and running with CN Pilot.
Okay, thank you very much, Puneet. We do have a bunch of questions. John is asking the question about when will IPv6 be available?
So we have a plan of intent to do IPv6 in the first half of 2018. This will be a software upgrade on the access points when we enable it. So right now we don't have a firm roadmap date for this, but we do have a plan of intent for the first half of next year.
Okay, and William is asking, and I know you touched a little bit on this, can you just briefly describe the mesh capabilities of our outdoor solutions?
Sure. So on the enterprise access points, and this applies to both indoor and outdoor, we support wireless mesh. Now, just before we go down mesh, one quick note is for any long distance outdoor high interference installs, we would recommend our point-to-point or point-to-multipoint solutions because they are really designed for long distance backhaul. Now, having said that, the APs do support mesh. We support a basic single hop mesh or a tree node mesh. So we don't do a full mesh where you would have multiple APs connected to each other or one client connected to two base APs, for instance. But we can provide both a single hop mesh as well as a multi-hop mesh in a sort of tree architecture of the APs. One caveat with mesh is with each hop, the throughput will drop by half. The capacity of the network drops by half. So we don't recommend using more than a couple of hops. One hop when you really need, and then two at max is what we would recommend.
And Puneet, you may want to explain that the drop in capacity is true for any vendor's mesh architecture.
Right, good point, Chetan. So it's not the drop in capacity with hops will happen on any access point where you have to receive traffic and then transmit traffic again, because you will receive it from clients and then you'll transmit it upstream. And all of this typically happens on the same channel. So this is really a matter of physics. It's not something about our implementation. As long as the same spectrum and the same radio is used for the wireless hop, you will have a drop in the capacity by half on any AP.
Right, and I think if you're looking for more information on meshing, certainly there's information on our website and also some discussion points on our community where you can find out more about that. Puneet, Christian is asking the question about Autopilot and the architecture. And can Autopilot do vouchers also? And you might want to explain what a voucher is.
Sure. Thanks, Ray, Christian, for the question. So in our CN Maestro based hotspot, we have a feature called voucher. A voucher is a passcode that you can give out to customers. So, 8-alphabet passcode that you would share. And when the user logs on to the Wi-Fi network, they get a splash page and they need to enter this passcode on that splash page to get access. So only people who have this passcode will be able to get access, and those who don't will not be able to access the network. Vouchers can be used to both control access. So for example, if you have a public event and you have a number of guests coming in, you can distribute these vouchers to the VIPs. or it can be used to run a payment based portal where you can pay offline, get a voucher, and then again those who have these vouchers or passcodes get access to the network. So our implementation of vouchers is inside CN Maestro. So it is not supported with the autopilot mode, because when we run the APIs as autopilot, currently the APIs run all standalone. They're not connected into CN Maestro. So vouchers are available in both CN Maestro on-premises as well as CN Maestro Cloud. And they're a built-in feature. So you can have multiple captive portals, customized splash pages, and you can enable vouchers, and you can also manage your access points from CN Maestro.
Great, thank you. And Anthony is asking a question about splash page sign-ins. His question is, does the splash page or sign-in give the option to sign in to the Wi-Fi SSID via social media accounts, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we do support social media accounts. So when you set up your captive portal, you can enable Facebook or Google or Microsoft Office 365. And when people log in using those accounts, whatever login information they use, plus whatever else we learn about them, that can then be downloaded by the administrator and used later for marketing purposes. So answer is yes, you can have your splash page set up with social login, and all the data that you collect can then be used for marketing purposes or for reaching out to customers with special deals, things like that.
Okay, and oh, he says thank you right away. We got that. Thank you, Anthony. To talk about customer guest access, Tim is asking the question, for the customer to manage guest access, can I give them access to just their equipment in my portal, or do I need to set them up with their own portal?
Okay, so currently we do need to have the administrator create the portal. We are shortly coming out, this is in the November or so timeframe, with a feature called MSP, where with a managed service provider mode, you can have multiple administrators, and these administrators can then manage their own accounts. So then you can have a customer customize his own splash page or his own part of the network. But at the moment in CN Maestro, the setting has to be done by the administrator. So if you have two customers and they both wish to have a captive portal, you would need to create that captive portal page, you as the administrator of the network.
Great, and now we've got a couple of questions on the indoor side about the E600. The question is, will the E600 be available as a software upgrade, or is it completely different hardware from the E400?
Okay, so the E600 is a completely new hardware. With the E600 now we'll have 3 hardware units for indoor. We have the E400, which is our 11AC Wave 1. And then the 410 and the 600 are again 2 different hardware units for our Wave 2. The 410 is 2x2, and the E600 is a fresh new hardware. It's a 4x4 11AC Wave 2 access point.
Great, thank you. And one other question about the E600. For IPv6, the E600 will be available with software upgrade, or is it a new hardware? Well, we just answered that. Okay, sorry. One other question about autopilot. Does the autonomous CN Maestro required to buy license for each AP?
No, we don't. So none of the features or the management in CN Pilot requires AP licenses. So whether you're using your AP standalone, or you're running them autonomous in autopilot, or if you're managing them through either cloud or on-premises, you don't need AP licenses to manage the APs.
Great, and Jesus is asking the question, do we have any plans to implement Facebook Wi-Fi?
Yes, so Facebook Wi-Fi is on our plans. So, and just to clarify the difference, we support Facebook-based social login today. So when you have a social login page or a captive portal page, you can have users log in with their Facebook credentials. Facebook Wi-Fi or Facebook Wi-Fi for business, where you would log in and then like the business for getting access, is something that is on our roadmap, and we're looking to have a release in the next couple of months with support for that.
Well, great. Thank you very much. Those are, and even Jesus says thank you. Those are all the questions that we have in the queue today. I'd like to thank Chetan Habale and Puneet Bhatta for their time and presentation. And if you do have any additional questions, you can post them on the community. We'll have the recording and the slides posted sometime in a few hours. Thanks, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Have a good day.